All right, let's do it. Um, so good morning again, everybody. We see more folks coming. Yeah, you can pop in the chat your name and your intro, or how you're feeling on Monday morning if you'd like. My name is Katie Rubin. I'm part of the, you might have seen me and my colleague Pat and some other folks on here in some of the legislative theater events where we've been working to co-produce parts of this Greater Manchester Homelessness Prevention Strategy. And we're very excited today to be working with a draft and be able to talk about it and offer feedback and help to make it even stronger from here over the next few months. We are, so Pat and I are just kind of going to MC and pull this thing together, but there's lots of folks from the Homelessness Action Network and the GMCA who will be really leading us through the different bits of the strategy and different bits of feedback. And so we'll be here to kind of help cheer us along and keep going. And I see other folks from the legislative theater events here as well, which is awesome, because co-production has been a really important part of this. So I will stop talking for a moment and I will pass it over to Pat to introduce themselves and get us in the zone.
Hi everyone, I'm Pat. I've been working with Katie, training up to be a legislative theatre facilitator. We've been doing lots of projects, very much this one. And we're just thinking today, we'll have a quick start, give you a bit of an idea on how we've been doing things, with everyone who's up for it, for doing one of the exercises that we've been doing with our groups. And it's just been a way of thinking about the topic in different formats, different methods. And like everyone else, we have to figure out how to do these things over Zoom. So what we're going to do today, if you're all up for it, don't worry, you don't need to come off mute or anything, is we're just going to do an image of the word game. So just in your fabulous little Zoom boxes, I do hope if you can turn your camera on, if you do want to get involved, you are up for it. That I'm just gonna throw out a word, and I'd like you to make an image with your face, your shoulders, your arms, whatever you can see in your magical Zoom box, just for us all to have a moment for that. And you don't need to think about it too deeply, just you throw out and you get a few seconds, we'll hold it and we'll see each other. So the first one will be home. So just take a minute, what do you think of when it comes to home? So just 3, 2, 1, and hold a space. And if you want me to have a look round, yeah, we got lots. Oh, we got lots of hearts. I love that. I can't get enough of that. Lots of hearts. And
lots of sleeping. I see lots of rest on a Monday morning.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Well done. So that way you can rest, you can relax out for a sec. And we'll just try another one. So the next one we're going to have a go is support. So how would you show support? So 3, 2, 1, and hold your space. Oh wow, I love that we're getting some really different shapes here. We're getting some that are going outwards, hold in, lots of connectings. And great, relax, well done. And I think just one more. And this is doing, these are vague on purpose. So last one we're gonna have a little go at is community. Have a quick think about it, what you might want to show. And 3, 2, 1, hold it. Neat. Yeah, no, I'm seeing that we've got lots of shapes, lots of arms out and arms up. And if you want to take a minute to have a look at other people's, like, the ones they're holding. And it's all very positive, which I like as well.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, Dory, you can relax now. And well done. Thank you all.
And go ahead. I was going to say, think about what you saw in support and community and home, and think about some of the things I was seeing and how that can inspire us in terms of the way we engage today and the way we hope to engage with this strategy and this draft. So a few things I think we want to note is that this is the Homelessness Action Network, which is incredibly powerful community. From all my experience and everything I've seen that the network able to do. And the strategy, the homelessness prevention strategy, I know the intention is that the entire community is going to carry this out and make this happen. And so we want for the whole community to feel ownership even today of being able to give that feedback. So whatever energy we were able to put in there in those images with support and community, we'll be trying to take those energies into our breakout groups even. So we're about to pass it over to some of our amazing speakers, starting with Mayor Andy Burnham to talk about the strategy. But just a few other things from us from that warm up, right, is that when we get into these, the feedback sections, which is the main intention of today, to start a process of feedback. This is not the only time we can give feedback in the next few months. That we will be in groups and we really want to create space for everyone in that group to be heard as a community. And we want to think of this document as a living, breathing draft that has lots of opportunity for change and that we need everybody's input there. So, and you'll be hearing more from Pat and myself as we go. And I think that's good, right, Pat? That's good for us for now. Okay, so we are thrilled. Is Andy here with us? Yes, great.
I am, Katie. Good morning.
Thank you. Go for it.
And I'm told I've got 10 minutes, so I will stick. I'll try and do not the normal politician thing, and I will try and stick rigidly to my 10 minutes. What a brilliant start to a Monday morning that was. Very business-like start, Katie, from you, and then Pat, brilliant getting us. I'm going to start every Monday morning with legislative theatre. I think that's the way forward, I think, absolutely. So I'm just going to use my time to do a couple of minutes of looking back over the last 4 years on this journey we've all been on together, and then a look forward to the strategy and where we go from here. But just let me start. This is the Greater Manchester Homelessness Action Network, and look at us now. I'm looking at 4 screens of Zoom windows. It's an amazing thing, that, isn't it? Well, this thing has grown, hasn't it? And so many people now involved and tuning in on a Monday morning to this discussion. Absolutely fantastic. And that's, I guess, my first reflection. When we go back to where this began in 2017, we had a big problem, and I don't think we were kind of really understanding how best we could deal with it. And I think the learning for me of the last 4 years is the power in the Greater Manchester system when it pulls in one direction is awesome. When we've got full alignment between the GMCA, our 10 councils, our housing providers, but then critically, and this is critically the voluntary and community sector, and when we're then pulling in that same direction, look at what we can do. If I look across the Greater Manchester world, we're the ones that have really shown that through this network. And I think you could apply the same approach, the network and the collaboration at scale, to say food poverty, or there's a whole range of other issues you could take this model to. But that's my first reflection. In London, they can't do what we're doing because they don't have their councils as part of the GLA. whereas we're one system. So when we agree and we move on a priority, you know, we can make real change happen, and real change has happened in terms of the support we're giving to people, but it's not the end of the story. You know, we've got further to go. We've shown we can do something, but we've got further to go. So that's the way I kind of look at it at this moment in time. You know, obviously we can discuss some of the individual things that we've brought about through this network and the difference that they're making. But you know, the main point I would want to get over this morning is this is working. The way that we are working is working, and we're driving change from the bottom up, and it's change that is not being dictated by public bodies in the way that it perhaps once was. There have been ideas that have come from this network. I always say this to him, make him blush again, but you know, Ian came up with a bed every night, and you know, it was then put into practice by us. And I just think this is a way of working that is really powerful, and it really means something. So to show how we're taking ideas from, you know, the network, and you know, obviously we had a bed every night. We were kind of throwing it together, if you remember, at speed, and it was obviously in fits and starts. And we had a bit of funding for a few months, and then a bit more, and we had the phases of developing a bed every night, and it's obviously improved through those phases. What I can report to you this morning is that the combined authority will have a report this Friday that will set the first annual budget for a bed every night. So in effect, it becomes part of the system, the fabric, and I will commit now to say that it will exist for the full second term if I'm re-elected. So it's kind of, the change there is made, but obviously we now need to go further than that and think about how we do better than just provide a crisis response. So this kind of pushes me then, Katie, just to look to the strategy and the discussion that you're about to have this morning. Again, one of the learning points for me over the last few years is if you put a solid foundation underneath people, you create the conditions for success in their life rather than failure. So in a way that a bed every night is the same bed every night. You know, we give people that basic stability, and then they can move forward from there. I think our Housing First pilot is showing the same thing, that if you give people breathing space, if you give people time to recover without the kind of stress that cliff edges can cause, you know, to do with the benefit system, or, you know, so you've got this for 3 months, and then, you know, that is what creates failure, often the way the public services work. What we are learning through the journey we're on is that the more stability that you give to people, the more you create the conditions for success rather than failure. So if you look at Housing First, the tenancy success rate is around 90%, 89%, and it is absolutely linked to being true to the model of giving people support and time and breathing space to recover. So my thinking, as we kind of tilt towards the sort of next phase, if you like, and we think about a homelessness prevention strategy for Greater Manchester, I'm thinking that we need to follow what Finland have done and make Housing First a sort of guiding philosophy, or indeed a sort of Greater Manchester policy, where we work hard to give every single resident of Greater Manchester housing security. So we become a Housing First city region. And I think that's the proper response to the pandemic. Why have we had a sort of higher level of cases and infection all of the way through? It is, well, you could explain it in a number of ways, but I think the central explanation is too many of our residents have a combination of insecure work and insecure housing. Because obviously, if people aren't secure in their job, they're never going to be secure in their home. And therefore, they can't have good health because they are living with stress, but also are unable to take time off if they needed to. And hence, the virus has not been controlled here in the way that we would want it to have been. So housing is at the heart of this. Housing security, it seems to me, has got to be at the heart of our response to the pandemic, and we need to become a housing first city region. Personally, I would go further and look at universal basic income, because I think if people have got security over housing and income, then I think you've got the conditions for success. And we would tilt public services away from crisis intervention and all of the huge amount of money we spend on that, and we'd actually be kind of setting up all of our citizens to have a good life, good health, creating the foundations for success. Anyway, that might not be possible, but what is possible, I think, is to start thinking about housing security for every resident in Greater Manchester, a good home for everybody. And this also meets with our climate objectives as well, because I've set 2038 for a zero carbon Greater Manchester. It feels to me that if we focus on people's homes and improving people's homes to retrofit them to meet that objective, we will also be investing in their health and investing in giving people better lives. So for me, as we come out of the pandemic, improving housing feels to me to be absolutely the kind of central mission that we should be all about. It won't be good for people, it will be good for us economically as well and industrially, because we'll be going ahead on something that the rest of the country will need to do. We'll be giving our young people skills that will last them a lifetime if they are to be trained in those kind of green construction techniques. So I'll kind of bring it to a close here, Katie. That's where my kind of thinking has got to. I think we need an ambitious homelessness prevention strategy that's more than a homelessness prevention strategy. It's more, let's express it more positively. It's about a housing security policy for everybody in Greater Manchester. And I think we need to look at a multiplicity of interventions, a good landlord charter, finally bringing that through to regulate the private rented sector in a very direct way. It's about the ethical lettings agency that we've set up, working with our housing providers, and really scaling that up so that it has many more properties under its control. It is about a housing first approach as much as we can in all people's support needs. It is about building new homes for social rent, and we now need to work out how we can do that using the borrowing power of ourselves and our 10 councils. So that's where my kind of thinking is this morning, Katie. I'm just going to finish by kind of thanking you all individually for buying into this journey, for being a part of this journey. We had a crisis on our streets. We still do in some ways, but it's not what it was. It's a situation where we've got something to offer people. We didn't have something to offer people a few years ago. Now we've got something to offer people. We've made change happen, but I believe we can make so much more if we carry on working in this way, which is bottom up, with everybody pointed in the same direction, everybody pulling together. That has made change happen, and it can make even more if we carry on working in that way. So I'll leave it there, Katie, and I'm going to hand back to you.
Thank you. Fantastic. And I think Pat, we are passing it over now to Molly to continue that, right?
Yes, we are.
Go for it. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. I'm just trying to share my screen, which should be easy at this stage, but still challenging. Okay, so can everybody see that? You can hear me? Yeah, before I click on and then lose all of your faces. Yeah, great. Okay. So following on from Andy's introduction, I'm just going to do kind of 5-10 minutes of trying to unpack the strategy for you. I appreciate, obviously, we've circulated a draft and an executive summary. But sometimes it's helpful just to kind of run through it in normal language and hope that you can engage with it in that way as well. And this will lead into the first breakout, which is really about unpacking what's in the strategy so far and how we continue to develop that. So as Andy said, I think really clearly, the strategy is there to codify what we've learned so far. And there's a lot that we've learned so far, I think, in the journey that we've been taking together and the collaborative work to try and end rough sleeping. And now it's about applying that to a wider ambition and a wider mission to prevent homelessness. Some of those key things that we've learned, he's just mentioned, in terms of working from the bottom up, working in partnership, making sure that we're being person-centred and valuing lived experience as well. The strategy is also there to really try and embed prevention across public services, and I mean kind of public community, any services for people. And there's lots of different ways in which we can do that, and that is detailed within it. And it's also to take this really beyond Greater Manchester and advocate for wider change on a national and even international basis. We know that homelessness is not something which is just a feature of life in Greater Manchester, but it is something which afflicts people across the country. And there's certainly something to be said for having an ambition within the strategy that helps move that wider piece of work forward and reduce inequalities beyond our city region. What we've done to date, despite sort of really challenging conditions and trying to work remotely with one another, and with the challenges that COVID's thrown in our way, is a huge amount of co-production. And I just wanted to show here these fantastic images that Carmen Byrne has done, which capture some of the conversations that we've been having, this one specifically around the commissioning cycle, so the pain of and the complication of commissioning, and then an imagination of what that could maybe look like if we were to do it better. And this has really been the product of co-production, and we've done that in a number of ways. So we've had a huge amount of legislative theatre work focusing on key topics that matter to people with lived experience of homelessness. We've done some work with policy organisations, with AVA and Agenda, with the Innovation Unit, and others, and we've facilitated strategy discussions as well, so with the programme board, but also with the Homelessness Action Network advisory board. And most recently, we've been engaging with the Equalities Panel to look at racial inequality and how that pervades people's experiences of homelessness and what it is that we need to do to present it on a much larger scale. So a huge amount of co-production work has been going on. I'm so pleased to see so many people from across that work here today. And just another thank you for all of the time and effort that you've put in to getting us to this stage. And the stage that we are at really is trying to express what good homelessness prevention means for us in Greater Manchester. And key to that is framing it. It's a massive topic. As Andy's already sort of said, it's everything from housing and our infrastructure on the one hand to the kind of person services and support that people receive on the other. And the way that we are looking to frame this strategy is thinking about kind of 5 key areas. And the outcomes that have been developed and co-produced are these outcomes here. And the question for you today really is, are these the right outcomes? Are they bold enough? Are they the right missions that we should be setting ourselves to prevent homelessness? So thinking about how we prevent homelessness for everybody, nobody being put at greater risk because of their race, gender, age, religion, sexuality, or gender identity, and proactively reducing poverty in order to prevent homelessness. For people who are commonly at risk, thinking about our mission being that nobody becomes homeless at the point of transition between services or into and exit from institutions. And then we get into the spaces that we've more commonly been working on together, which is people at imminent risk of homelessness or experiencing homelessness. And the outcomes that have been co-produced in this space are around people knowing how and where to receive quality advice, advocacy and support, nobody being forced to sleep rough, and temporary accommodation being suitable to support respite, recovery and reconnection, And lastly, that homelessness is not or is never an entrenched or repeat experience. So 5 key outcomes there, 5 key missions which have been co-produced, and a key question today is, are they the right ones? Do they need to be more ambitious? How do we phrase them to really galvanise that joint working that we need to see in order to deliver them? And then the rest of the strategy goes into the depths of, well, what does key activity look like to meet these ambitions, and how do we go about doing that? But they're really kind of front and centre content for you to get stuck into today. And as I've said, putting it in this way, looking at these 5 frames, we are building upon a typology which is becoming more and more used. So this image on the right, the different circles of people's experiences of homelessness, that's within the strategy, but I just wanted to break it down and make it really clear that when we're saying universal targeted crisis, those kind of headline words, what we're talking about is preventing homelessness for everyone, preventing it for people at risk, people at imminent risk, and then thinking about people's experience if they are homeless and repeat experiences of homelessness. So just doing a bit of jargon busting there. And like I said, the rest of the strategy goes into much more detail. So it talks about not only those key outcomes, but also the principles by which we should be working to achieve them. Are they right? Should they be different? It talks about responsibility and accountability, absolutely critical to making sure that this is more than just words on paper. And you'll get a chance to discuss that in your breakouts as well. And then it goes on to what it is that we will do differently and how we're going to get there. And under those outcomes, key activity that we think or has been co-produced that we think is really critical. And alongside that, some good practice examples, because there's so much of this work already happening across Greater Manchester, nationally, in small pockets of really, really good practice. So hopefully you can see for yourself some of the work that's already existing. And really the question is, are they the right things to profile, and should we be sort of looking at spreading and scaling that practice, and how do we do that? And then the final part is around how are we going to do this together? And 2 key mechanisms there. So one, thinking about our public service reform agenda, which is about how we work in places, in neighbourhoods, what kind of workforce we need, what kind of skills and experience and values our workforce need, thinking about power and leadership and how that works with and for communities, but also how we use devolution. So that final section is on how we influence and work with governments. So some key kind of policy change requirements to help us to reach these outcomes and reach these overall missions. So that's a very brief introduction to help unpack the strategy, and that's what we're going to be doing in the first session. Just a final slide to show that we're really in this second stage, this engagement stage at the moment, and that following the local and mayoral elections, we'll be moving to a public consultation stage. So this engagement is really kind of wider public consultation. It's about working with trusted partners, working with the network, working with other key stakeholders that are already really engaged in this space to make sure that the draft and the frame that we put out to the wider public is the right one, and that you're happy to own it and back it. So just showing that kind of journey that we're on at the moment. Okay, so that's it from me. I'm going to pass on to Sierra, I think, to give a little bit more information about this first breakout. And I'm going to try. Okay.
Hi everyone. Hi, I'm Surya from Homeless Link. So the next part of this process is that you are going to be allocated into breakout rooms and taking with you all that you've heard this morning, including that amazing energy and warmth created by Pat and Katie at the beginning. So in your breakout rooms, you will have 15 minutes to discuss the following 2 questions. with regards to this strategy. So we're going to be asking you to discuss what is it that you're most excited about, and what is it do you think that you could contribute towards within this strategy. So a slide will be shared in your groups with some facilitation notes on there, because it's self-facilitation, there's no allocated facilitator, so you will just, it's all self-facilitated. So you will leave some notes with some prompts on there for discussion.
Okay, someone open the radical room for me.
So as again, as Molly said earlier,
Sorry, could we just ask just to make sure that you're muted if you're not directly the speaker, so we can make sure there's a little background noise as possible. Thank you.
hi, I'm back. Okay, so I'm not sure how much of that people caught, but yeah, so a facilitation note slide will be sent through. So again, as Katie said earlier, and as Molly said in her presentation, you know, it's your views are really crucial to the process of developing this strategy. So please share your thoughts, ideas, concerns through the either the Jamboard if you feel comfortable with that, or through the chat function. So you have 15 minutes to have your discussions and share back some key points through the chat function or the Jamboard, whichever you feel comfortable. So I think you will now start to be allocated into breakout rooms, and we'll see you in about 15 minutes.
As well, if everyone in their breakout rooms could assign someone who will be adding notes to the Google Doc, that would be appreciated. Thank you. And if there's any just little individual comments people want to put in the chat from their breakout rooms or whatever, you're more than welcome.
Yes, hi everybody. I think Pat was just welcoming us back, and great work in your first of several breakout rooms. We want to make sure we get some just some technical support, and apologies if we didn't get to do that before, for everyone who's taking notes, entering in notes. So a couple technical things. Summer's been dropping into the chat the link to the actual prevention strategy draft, a homelessness prevention strategy draft. So you should be able to open that. It's a Google Drive document. If you haven't been able to, if you haven't had it open yet, and let us know if you're having trouble getting that. And then the Jamboard, if you want to open it right now, and for whoever maybe in your group was tasked with taking some notes. So I'm looking at the Jamboard right now. I see lots of sticky notes here. So if you go to the left side of the Jamboard, about the fourth icon down, and no worries if you don't want to be doing this technical stuff, but just a quick note, there's a sticky note. You can click on it, and then you can type your comment. We were excited about the ideas about regulating or new changes for the private rental sector. We were excited about the focus on co-production and advocacy. You can type in your idea, you can make it a different color if you want, and then you just let go and it'll pop up on that sheet. And this is the first slide here, which is all about what are we most excited about and what can you or can we contribute to. Any technical questions about that feel okay for folks? Great. Please do let us know in the chat if you have technical questions, and we'll help you out. Thumbs up. Did people get to have a bit of a robust conversation, starting off with what we're excited about? There's lots to be excited about. Great. All right. So, Pat, who are we passing off to next?
Okay, so next we should have, I'm looking at this correctly, critiquing the strategy. Robbie, Molly, is one of you both of you gonna talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can introduce it first if you like.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thanks guys for coming. I'm looking in at that Jamboard and there's so many different post-its that have been thrown in. It's going to be really fun deciphering them after for whoever is on top of that. But thanks everyone for your contributions. So in this next breakout, I think we want to get a little bit critical or self-critical, because this is like our strategy as a Greater Manchester and as a network. So it's about stuff that we think we haven't put in there yet, or we want to be in there. And so deliberately asking those kind of questions. And I know people were talking about radical ideas earlier, the things that might like the deep changes that might change it. And that's kind of what this space is for. So you might have got onto that. I think in my breakout, we already started getting onto some of those things that we worry might not be in the strategy. And that we want to talk about these in the next one. So talked about the bits you're excited. We want to go deeper into like what's not there. And I think if you haven't had a chance to digest it all yet, that's fine. Like we can talk in this one about what you would worry might get left out. And then you can look back and see whether you can find it or not. So that might be for your work or your experience or your like area of focus, that one big policy change that you've thought about for a long time before, or you think could make the biggest difference. That's where we want to get crowdsource those kind of things, check if it's in the strategy, and like hone it down if not. So it's also where we might want to get like more specific about things. So if it says somewhere in the strategy, like, you know, involve more lived experience, well how? Like how should lived experience be involved? Like when should it be involved, in what processes, through like what channels can that lived experience be involved, and maybe even like what money is going to be available to pick it up perhaps. So it's stuff like that that can get more specific, and we can pick out around your particular areas of interest, so to get deep into it. And there's a few bits that might be relevant. Obviously the key activities in the strategy are quite detailed, and say the kind of stuff that's going to be there, so take a look at those. Those are pages 20 to 29 in the links that Sandra shared in the chat. But then there's also like section 8 in there, which you might want to take a look at or have a think about, which maybe goes into more of the like systemic changes, the more structural changes in the shifting of power. And that's something else to mention and think about in this one as well, if that's really important to you, and to think about. Those are probably the key kind of headlines. Molly, do you want to say anything more around this section of it?
Yeah, that's perfect, Robbie. Everything, I think, you know, everything's up for grabs. I think I would just re-emphasize from my presentation at the beginning, the opportunity to critique those key outcomes themselves. Are they the right, you know, are they the right outcomes? Are they the right missions, if you like, for us to coordinate our activity around? Yeah, any and all opinions on that also welcome. Hopefully you have very, very good and very vibrant discussions, and everyone gets an opportunity to contribute. Thank you.
And just so everyone knows, sorry, we're just going to be, after we've done this breakout room, we'll have a very quick 5-minute comfort break. So if, don't worry, that has been planned in there. We won't expect you to do the whole thing all the way through. So just quickly.
And once again, before we break out, remember that you might want to nominate, or you likely want to nominate someone in your group to take those notes that will go on the Jamboard, if that's the easiest way to go. And that can be somebody new if you want. Again, I think I'm sure everyone's doing a great job of just making sure that we're getting all the voices in the conversation, specifically when we're talking about critique and feedback. I know we'll have lots of great things to say, so making sure that we make space for everybody. I think Pat and Molly and Robbie, we're ready to do it, aren't we? Yeah. All right. So those are our two questions. again, what could be more specific, and how, and what do you worry might get left out? Go for it.
Empty squares where I'm sure people are grabbing a coffee. Okay, so I think the vast majority of us are back now, back from break. So thank you all for rejoining. And next, we have our last breakout room, delivering the strategy, which should be introed by Ian and Molly. If you're okay to.
Yeah, that's great, Pat. Thank you so much for that. It's good to have you back from your coffee. And we're now coming to the final breakout. We've unpacked the strategy, we've critiqued it, and now we're going to think about delivering it. And just a few points to mention, I guess. You'll have seen that there's a detailed responsibility and accountability section, which is section 3. And of course, a number of boards have an accountability function, like the Homelessness Programme Board and our own advisory board. But this is our prevention strategy. And so we need to work out how we hold ourselves and each other to account. And perhaps feedback loops would help to show what is going well and where more is needed. We know we've got to do some more development in this strategy on the implementation section, which is section 9. So any detailed thoughts that we can give in this Zoom would be really welcome. What next do we need to do? And of course, we're also thinking about holding the government to account. So we should be sure that section 10 has got the right asks in it, and that the issue of how the working relationship between us here in GM and the government should be developed in terms of devolution. So any work we can do in relation to that would be really helpful. We've got a few questions to bring in that breakout, but Molly, anything else that we need to be thinking about in this breakout?
No, I think nailed it. Thanks, Ian.
So just moving into the actual Jamboard, and it's great to see all these post-it notes coming on. So hopefully it'll just be the same as we come to this next one. This time we've got 3 questions. So the 3 questions that we're taking into the breakout are: how will we hold each other to account for delivering this strategy? How do we ensure that everyone's got access and can be a part of it? And then what national policy changes do we need to campaign for still? So those are the 3 things that we're going to be putting our post-it notes on in this last breakout. So across to you, Pat.
Okay, yep, so we're going to be popping back into our groups one more time. We've also been seeing some really great comments popping up in the chat, people adding links they think are useful, like there's the spring housing in Birmingham people have been talking about, seen someone talking about. And again, if there's anything that you think like it gets missed out in your break room because of time or anything, do feel free to put it in the chat. And so yeah, should we go into our final breakout?
Yeah, and same idea. So remember, making sure that at least one person is taking those notes. And if you are using the Jamboard, as Ian said, you can see how busy it is on pages 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now in breakout 3, we're adding sticky notes on page 5 and 6, and there's some extra space on 7 and 8, which you can use as well if your sticky notes won't fit. And I think we're ready for our, for our last breakout. Thank you, Viv. On where we are with all of those discussions via these polls. Polls are a fun way to click buttons in a Zoom too. But before we launch them, maybe, just taking a second to kind of sit with yourself and think about all the things that have come up in your 3 breakout groups and how you're feeling about the status, the state of the homelessness prevention strategy right now, and how you want to engage. That's a great, I just see a quick question from Viv, maybe because we have a couple extra minutes. Pat, what do you think? Should we see if anybody just wants to throw out a few words about how it's been going for them, either in the chat or out loud, how the groups have been going?
Yeah. As I may have said, mentioned before, I can't recall, there is also the general contribution form. So if you want to put something in a bit longer, a bit more detailed, you can put it in there. Don't think it's been missed out. What have we got here?
Where's that, Pat?
The general contribution form. Could we get that? There it is.
Yeah, so this is a Google Doc that's going to be open to you. I think it'll also get emailed out, but this is kind of, if you're sitting with the the homelessness prevention strategy after today, there were things that came to you later, and there's going to be plenty of time for more feedback. So this is where you can just put in, you didn't get to say something in the group, anything you want to put in there after today is done. Yeah, Pat, what are we seeing in the chat? Should we read some of these out?
Yeah, sure. What we got here?
So many Post-its. Yes. Feeling inspired.
Katie, I need to leave in a few minutes, but it's Cal, the architect. There was a common sort of theme coming through the last breakout room discussion, which is that we could really do with a champion in each borough that represents GMHAN, so like a local representative who can monitor and look at how the strategy could meet the needs of the individuals, and also maybe establish the goals from the outset, which can be monitored, because every borough has got its own issues and complexities. So that was a running theme that came through.
That's great, and that's in the Jamboard, yeah. But that's a great point. Yeah, love it.
I've got to catch up with the typing, but I will get it on the Jamboard. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And we've got it in the chat now.
I have here from Salva that our group put the world to rights. You are more than welcome to tell us any specifics of that. But it is good to know that everyone ends up on the same page. That we all seem to be ending up on the same page here.
Brilliant. So let's go ahead and, with all that energy, let's take a look at these questions from the hand that'll pop up on your screen. Oh yeah, the fun of voting. So you can just answer those 2 questions however you feel. And when you're done, you can press submit at the bottom. And when we've all answered.
The idea of a champion to represent seems to be popular.
Absolutely. Great. So we'll publish the results of that poll in a second when everybody's answered. How are we doing, Viv?
It's like 94%, so should we?
Let's go ahead. Yeah, 94 is a great, look at that. If we could vote at 94%, really the world would be fixed. I mean, might be. All right. So what do we got? Oh, nice. Lots of excitement to see the next stage of this strategy and lots of interest in seeing more spaces to continue to contribute, 85%. So let's just run through that before we wrap up. There are more GMHAN open spaces to contribute. So just to review where we are, and Molly told us before, in this stage of feedback, I believe we have until the 8th of April to give feedback as this community of stakeholders on the strategy, and that really trying to get things more specific, make sure nothing's left out, everything we talked about. So there's the Google form where you can add more notes in. There's some GMHAN open spaces going to come up. And there's probably more ways you can gather, and certainly we know how to communicate with the HAN and the GMCA. And you can sign up to the mailer if you haven't. I'm just following along on the chat. And then as Molly said, after the elections, there'll be the public consultation phase. So that's where we are with the strategy. And I think that's really it for the announcements. It's been, everyone's been so awesome and engaging. Pat, anything else from us? Any other thing, any inspiring words?
Well, I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I was just very inspired that everyone immediately had stuff to say. There was no lack of things to say, and I don't know if anyone's group was abnormally quiet. But it's good to see everyone talking, putting things in the chat, that the Jam board has just been overfilling, because it is always better to have more content than not enough. So thank you all for being so involved.
Absolutely. Anything else from Robbie or Samra or Viv that we should say?
I might make a call out in answer to Vicky's question about groups joining the network. If you're here, you already are. It is for anyone who wants to end homelessness in Greater Manchester. But specifically, you can join the mailing list and keep up to date with all the stuff that's coming out through the link I just shoved in the chat, I think. And actually, there's an email address as well, info@gmhan.net. If you email that, it will come through to someone, and we'll be able to keep you up to date, because the group who are involved in organising events like this or anything else is open to anyone who wants to and has the time. We're all volunteers who do it, including some of the faces on here today, and more input is always welcome from loads of different diverse groups as well.
Yeah, and that was a theme, I think, in our group, about sharing learning, but also like something else we talked about. We talked about like that some of the strategy seems long and weighty, and kind of actually holding some like listening events at like the grassroots places where people feel comfortable, and just like hearing people's experiences. I said I did a bit of that on the standing together strategy, and like seeing how those related to like key areas of the strategy. So yeah, I think that might be a good way of kind of just doing a bit of a sense check to get some of this.
Yeah, great points. And I think I think from our conversations earlier, in addition to the HAN open spaces, groups can gather. I think probably our legislative theater folks will keep gathering or communicating about our feedback, and figuring out how to share that too. Shout out, as Molly said, shout out to all the actors and facilitators who are on the call today, who've been a part of that process. And there's, in addition to as Matt's saying, in addition to the formal spaces that are already set up, feel free to make your own spaces to gather feedback and then share it through the Google form or through emails in the next few weeks, because this is a really important opportunity. Lots of thank yous. Yeah, shout out to the Elvins Trail. Shout out to Beth and Jez. All right. Anything else we need to say? It's we're early, everyone. 7 more minutes of feedback.
Great MC in that. That's what it is.
Woohoo!
Get the gift of 5 minutes time.
Yes. All right. So we will officially close out there. Thank you to my co-MC Pat.
Thank you, Katie.
And we will see
Thank
each
you,
other.
Katie.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pat.
See you soon.
Bye, guys.